Good afternoon. I am Jimmy Landley, and on behalf of Bright Ideas Press, I would like to welcome you to this hangout. I have with me today Tyler Hogan, the president of Bright Ideas Press, and he's going to be discussing a very important topic for those of us who are homeschooling our children, tweens, and teens. He's going to be talking about alternatives to college. So, Tyler, I'm just going to jump right in with my very first question and ask you, is college necessary?
Well, I would say for some people, absolutely. There are certain professions that just require a college degree and you can't get away with skipping it. Particularly things that require advanced degrees. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, college is absolutely essential. You can't bypass that. But I would say that there's a tremendous number of job opportunities that do not require a job or do not require a college degree, which are frequently overlooked when we talk with our teenagers about what they plan to do after high school. So for instance, if I'm going to be doing trade school or if I want to be an entrepreneur, those are things that a college degree may be helpful for, but maybe I just need something like a vocational school program or maybe just the life experience or apprenticeships or internships. So there's for some people, yes, it is essential, but for a lot of people, I would say no, it's not. And what I would really caution people about is just assuming that college is the next logical step. Because for some people, college is really just a way to postpone growing up and extend adolescence. And for others, college winds up being a huge financial sinkhole, and you wind up with an enormous amount of debt and not really a whole lot to show for it. What employers are looking for more than a BA necessarily are character qualities. They're looking for workers that they know are reliable, are going to have integrity and honesty, and are going to show up on time and be quick to learn the skills that they need for their job. So depending on what line of work you're looking at, it might be necessary, but it's not something that I would just assume is the next logical step after high school graduation.
I think there certainly is that assumption, and especially since we have this kind of myth that all homeschoolers are super geniuses. Somehow we have, created this impression, and we're not. We run the gamut, all kinds of abilities and talents. So
Mm-hmm.
that's great. I wonder if you could speak just a little bit more about the postponement of adulthood. What do you mean by that, and what could be the negatives of going to college when it is merely a postponement of adulthood?
Well, for some people, going to college is just, it's 4 years of some work and some study and a lot of partying. And it's not necessarily preparation for your career. It's not necessarily getting you ready for being a grown-up. It's just a way to not have to make the hard decisions about what I'm going to do when I grow up. I think a lot of people go to college without a real clear idea of what it is they hope to get out of it. And I think that's a big mistake.
So would that be the litmus test, you think, that knowing, having those expectations and having some long-term goals, is that how you can decide whether it's a postponement or a legitimate choice?
I think that's a big thing. If you have goals that a college degree is going to help you achieve, that lets you know, okay, this is a legitimate stepping stone. If it's just, yeah, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm going to college, I think that's a problem, and that's just, debt and waiting rather than moving on with your life.
Hmm. Okay, that's a great test, I think, that we parents can all use when we're discussing these things with our kids.
Yeah, and
What?
and to illustrate that, I think the average number of times that undergraduates change their major, the last time I looked it up, it's 7 times before graduation, which, I mean, that's every semester you're changing your major. And I've known people who spent 8 years getting their undergraduate degree
Mhm.
for various reasons. But if, especially if you're going to a private school at, 20 grand a year or more, 8 years on an undergrad, that's just insanity. You're going to wind up with more student loan debt than I had on my first house.
Absolutely. Those are excellent points. But okay, a lot of parents are probably thinking, will my child be able to support himself without going to college? What about the financial aspect? Yes, there's debt if you go to college, but what about making money?
Well, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of job opportunities that don't require college. And just to list a few things that people could consider, one, military service. It's certainly not for everybody, but that is a valid career option. Civil service, if you go to, I think it's usajobs.com, and I think every state has their own set of websites devoted to here are job openings within state or municipal functions that some of them are going to require a BA, but not all of them. And there are full-fledged careers that you can find through those kinds of web portals. Alternatively, there's also the trades, blue collar work, skilled labor. Those are completely legitimate careers. And honestly, a lot of them pay way better than the minimum wage jobs that you might get with a bachelor's degree right out of college. For instance, if the median pay for a pipe welder is $22 an hour. Now, welding is not going to be for everybody, and you need to think about if that's going to be your career. If there are health risks associated with that, those are things to think through. But $22 an hour as median pay with overtime, I'm trying to remember the statistics. I think overtime of up to $55 an hour, depending on where you are and what your skill level is. I mean, that's way more than you can get working at an entry-level position right out of college. And a lot of jobs that you would think require a bachelor's degree don't necessarily require a bachelor's degree, like being a paralegal. That may be a trade school thing, but you don't have to have a BA to be a paralegal, and they make good money. Things like being an electrician, going into construction or plumbing, automotive repair, culinary school. A lot of the, not like doctors and nurses necessarily, but some of the medical professions, like being a lab technician or a radiologist, they may only need an associate's degree or sometimes even just a certificate. Any kind of work with computers, you can get an associate's in computer science, and that may be all that you need depending on what your career aspirations are. So all of those are completely legitimate careers that can pay a living wage and do not require a bachelor's or higher.
Those are excellent options, and it's great to have more choices when we're trying to guide our teens onto their future. So you mentioned a few of these already, but did you have any other that you wanted to add about educational opportunities beyond what we think of just a conventional four-year university?
Well, I think trade schools are usually a good option. If you're looking at a particular trade, there's almost always some kind of school or association that can provide you with some very useful credentials in that. Plus, one thing that I always encourage people to look at are apprenticeships and internships, especially if you can get those while you're still in high school, because A, that looks great on a transcript and a resume. If you're working somewhere and have some actual experience, that's very, very helpful, whether you're getting into college or getting a job. So apprenticeships, internships, and whether they're paid or not, those can be exceedingly valuable. Plus, they give you the option to test out a field and see if it's somewhere where you really like working, that's a very valuable thing to know off the bat. Yes, I love this, I want to be doing this. Or no, this is absolutely not for me. I'm glad I experienced this, and now I know to pursue something else instead. Both of those, I think, are successful internships if you can walk away with either of those ideas.
Absolutely. I knew many people in college who were in their senior year and did the practice teaching and decided, I hate this, and they had invested 4 years of college and then had to switch majors. So yeah, that's a bad time to discover that you don't want to do something. You had mentioned some online options to me earlier.
Yeah, there are online options both for your actual degree. I think of something like a University of the People, where you can get a bachelor's of business administration, or I don't know what all their course offerings are, but you can get a BA for free online. Also, if you're not looking to get a degree, but you just need training, especially on particular pieces of software or in particular areas of study like graphic design, page layout, editing, audio and video, film, those kinds of things. Something like lynda.com. I use lynda.com, and I love lynda.com, lynda.com. I'm not an affiliate for them, but I probably should be because I always send people there. They have enormous libraries of training videos for every piece of complicated software or coding language under the sun. And it's not an accredited university, but you can definitely pick up all the skills that you would need as an entrepreneur, as a graphic designer, as a photographer, as a film or audio editor. I mean, those are booming industries. Um, so something like that, like lynda.com, that might be all the education you need. And especially if you're looking at doing any kind of freelance work, and I'm thinking particularly of graphic design, writing, editing, what really matters is not so much your degree as your portfolio. And taking classes with something like lynda.com, that's going to be incredibly helpful to help boost your portfolio. Portfolios are going to get you clients, or they're going to get you hired by places that need, a full-time graphic artist, or even a part-time graphic artist, and you can have multiple clients like that. But those kinds of things where you're building your resume, building your portfolio with real-world experience are often your best options, especially if you're a freelancer.
That is a great example. I was just listening to a podcast a couple days ago that had this exact illustration. There was a kid, he was 17 years old and he was already in college. Obviously, he was very, advanced, and he was doing website design and graphic design, and he was making $8,000 a month doing website design. And he said, "Why am I in college?" And so he quit college because
Hmm.
he got tired of paying for an education when he was already making a full-time living. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it was an easy choice for him. Okay, but
And
maybe
the
that
nice thing
guy.
about the internet is it can provide, depending on what your field is, it can provide a certain level of anonymity. So if you're a 16-year-old doing website design or doing graphic art or photography, you don't have to advertise the fact that you're a teenager on your website. You just need people to see the quality of your work. And if they're impressed by that and they hire you, then that's fantastic. Make sure you pay your taxes. You're still an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
even though you're a teenager. But yeah, I mean,
And as
why spend
homeschoolers, we can
thousands of
start this
dollars?
now. Mhm.
Absolutely.
We can
Yeah, that
encourage
was
our
something
kids
that,
right now.
yeah, entrepreneurship is a incredibly valuable skill set. It's not just a skill set, it's also a mindset. And that was honestly one of the biggest gifts that my parents gave to me. They started Bright Ideas when I was little, and so I grew up around a home-based business and got to learn a lot of the ins and outs of running that even at a young age. And that's something that is serving me very well right now. So when kids have a chance to start their own businesses when they're still at home and there's that safety net, they're not having to worry about whether or not they're going to be able to pay for their next meal because mom and dad are still covering that. That is super valuable. And it gives you a chance to build that portfolio, get some clients, get some recommendations, and learn those skills in a safe environment where you have some support. And you can still get high school credit for it too.
Oh, there you go. That's a win-win.
Hmm.
Brilliant idea. What about kids who might need college later and they need to kind of postpone that decision?
Yeah, that's a really good question because some people, college is going to be important, but they're not ready to commit to a major right now. So do you go in undecided, or do, general studies and plan on changing your major later, or do you just not go at all? My general thinking is if you really don't have a good grasp on what direction you want to go in and what you're going to need to study, it's probably best to either take a gap year and spend that time doing an internship, doing missionary work, volunteering with AmeriCorps, or something that gets you out of the house, gives you some experience working with different people in different settings, finding out what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at, what you're terrible at. Getting that hands-on experience in anything really is going to be more helpful than studying something that's going to be useless to you 5 years later. Another option is if you have a good community college where you can go in and get all of your general education requirements out of the way. If you know you're going to need a degree, you're just not exactly sure what major to get, go ahead and get that kind of, all the boring classes that you have to take that aren't related to your major, but are going to be required to graduate. If I was a theater major, so if I could have gotten biology or speech or foreign language out of the way so that I could have focused on my major classes, I probably would have done that. Um, I know people who, they spent their freshman and sophomore years either at a community college or dual enrolled, so they're getting high school and college credit for these classes. And that way, when they go off to the 4-year university, they've already got 2 years under their belt and they can dive right into the stuff that they know is going to be interesting and practical. So if you're not sure, I would either recommend taking a gap year and filling it with some kind of either business opportunity, volunteer work, or something like that, or just getting those essential general education requirements out of the way. But whatever you do, make sure that you're spending time clarifying what your personal mission is, that you're not wasting that time, and that you're not just, whether you're spending it in school or spending it elsewhere, don't fritter it away. Spend time reading, spend time thinking, spend time exploring, and make sure that by the end of that year or 2 years or however long it takes, before you go into your 4-year university degree program, you have at least a pretty decent grasp on what is my mission, why am I here, what difference am I supposed to make in this world that this degree is going to enable me to do.
Tyler, this has been so helpful. I know the moms are getting a lot of great starting points for doing their own research and discussing with their kids, but where can people get even more information about this topic?
I think one thing that might be helpful for people would be the Embark conference. It's a 18-hour audio training course designed for parents of high schoolers. So you can go to embarkconference.com. It's put out by Bright Ideas Press, and if you purchase it, you'll get all of the audio, you'll get the PowerPoints from the various speakers. There's a wonderful 60-page high school planning workbook, and you also get access to our Embark closed Facebook groups. So there's a community of parents there who are all about sharing ideas and helping each other through all of the various questions that come up during the high school years. And one of the things that we're going to be addressing in the near future with, I think, a bonus webinar is helping kids discern their calling, because that's a huge topic that parents are always wanting to do, especially if you've got those kids who are like, I know I'm going to do something, I just don't know what. The Embark community is a great place to discuss that, and we're hopefully going to be able to add some more resources and ignite that conversation a little bit more.
Well, Tyler, so everyone, please do check .com. You can purchase that and get immediate access to all of those valuable resources. We'll give you some great information for guiding your teens on their path. And that's what Bright Ideas Press is all about, blessing Christian homeschool families in the path that God's called them to. So Tyler, thank you so much for what you've shared with us today.
Oh, my
If
pleasure.
any of you out there have questions or comments, please do interact with us. You can find Bright Ideas Press on Facebook. You can come to the YouTube channel by Bright Ideas Press and leave any comments on this video. We'd love to hear from you. So that'll be it for today, and we'll see you all next month.